So far we discussed different LangChain components, right? For example, let's say if you're asking a question to LLM, and we already know LLM has been trained with some public data, right? So the LLM will already have some generic intelligence, and if the LLM knows the answer with the generic intelligence that it has, then it will try to answer the question. Otherwise, let's say if it is any domain specific data related question, then the LLM will go and search in the vector database and try to retrieve the results for us, which is nothing but RAG, right? So in RAG, what we did, we tried to load the data, and then we did the chunking, and then we created the embeddings for those chunks, and we stored inside our vector database, right? And then we tried to retrieve the results. So in case if it is domain specific data question, then the LLM will try to retrieve the results from the vector database, right? If LLM cannot retrieve from its generic intelligence or from the vector database, then we have an option to use tools, right? So it can go and do the Google search or any other search and try to retrieve the results for us, right? So we have tools, agents, memory, and chains. So we already learned prompt engineering, right? So which is nothing but asking the right questions to LLM. So we have to provide the right context to the LLM, so the LLM can understand in a better way and predict the accurate results for us. So we have already seen this part as well. And we have tools, agents, memory and chains, and document loaders, right? These topics are pending. So let's cover one by one. And in this lecture, let's learn document loaders, right? So you understood the overall picture, right? And to learn all these topics, we are using LangChain, right? You understand why we are using LangChain? Because we are able to build end-to-end generative AI application by using the methods that are provided by LangChain, right? So that is why we are trying to learn each and every component of LangChain, right? Now let's discuss document loaders. That is to load any kind of data, whether it is CSV or HTML or PDF file, right? So what is document loaders? Document loaders are classes to load documents, and they are used to load a lot of documents in a single run, right? And we have different kinds of loaders. We will see some of them: CSVLoader, HTMLLoader, PDFLoader, and we have the complete documentation here, right? So for example, when you have different kinds of documents, let's say if your input document is in CSV file or HTML or PDF or JSON, right? Or in any other format, and if you want to load them, then you can make use of the functions that are available inside LangChain, right? Let's go to our code editor VS Code and see the implementation of different document loaders, right? So this is our build generative AI applications workspace. So this is where I'm trying to save all the files, right? So everything will be in one place. So first we have seen RAG application, we built the RAG application, and then we have seen different chunking methods and then prompt engineering techniques, and now we are seeing how to load different documents, right? So if you remember, this is our RAG application, right? So what we did here, first thing is we tried to load the input document, and then we did the chunking, right? And then the next step is we created the embeddings for those chunks, and then we stored those embeddings inside a vector database, and then we did similarity search, and then we created a complete RAG pipeline by using Claude Anthropic, right? So this is what we did. And if you notice here, let's go to our input document, right? If you notice here, we are hard coding the data, right? So instead of hard coding your input document, let's say if your document is in a CSV format or HTML or JSON or PDF, right? Now how to load the document and use it in your application. So that is what we are trying to do by using document loaders. Instead of hard coding your input document, let's try to read it from different files and load it, so that way you can use the content from different files, right? So let's see a few document loaders and how to implement them. So just like how we did before, I created an empty folder, document loaders demo, right? Now let's try to open this folder from VS Code and try to save our code over there, right? So let me go to VS Code. So far we have seen RAG demo, chunking methods demo, and prompt engineering demo. So now let me try to add the folder that we just created, document loaders demo, to our workspace. And click yes, right? So we got our document loaders demo, right? Now let's start with CSVLoader, and then we will move on to HTMLLoader and PDFLoader too. So click on this folder and file, new file, Python file, and let's save it as. So make sure you go to document loaders demo and save your file here, CSVLoader demo. That is how I am saving here, right? So the first thing is we have to import the module that is required to load a CSV document, right? So for that we have CSVLoader module which is present inside LangChain document loaders, right? So that is our first thing. And now the next thing is, assume you have your domain specific input document is saved somewhere, right? So for example, let's say this is our CSV file. This is our input document. Let's assume this, right? So if you notice here, we have age, attrition, business travel, etc. We have several columns and we have 1400 plus rows. So this is our input document, right? Which is saved inside my documents and data sets, right? So let's try to load the content from this file, right? So we can do that by using this CSVLoader, right? You can see the description here. So CSVLoader is used to load a CSV file into a list of documents, right? So now we are trying to load our document which is present inside my documents, datasets, HR analytics, right? So wherever your document is saved, try to give the entire path here, right? And then we are trying to load it here by using CSVLoader. Close that. And then the next step is, once we have inside this, we try to load it using load method. And let's assign this to a variable called data, right? Now let me save it, and now let's try to print the data and see what we have inside data, right? So let's try to run this and see our data, right? So it is trying to print entire content which we have inside our HR Analytics CSV file. Now let me try to print the data type of the variable data, right? So let's clear this terminal and let me just comment this, and then let's rerun the code. So now you can see it is of type list, right? So the data type of this variable data is list. So let's just try to get only the first row, right? So let's rerun the code and see. So we are able to print the first row from that list, right? So if you notice here, this is what we have: age 41, attrition S, right? So that is what it is trying to print, right? That is the first row because the index starts from 0, right? And then let's say if you want to print the second row, right, then we have to give the index as 1. So let me comment this and let's clear the terminal and rerun the code. So now you can see age 49, right? So that is the second row, right? So what we did here, we are able to load the CSV file by using CSVLoader, right? So instead of hard coding your content of your input document, let's say if this is saved somewhere inside a CSV file, then you can use CSVLoader and try to load the document and then make use of it, right? And now instead of this CSV file, let's say if your input document is a HTML file, right? So for that, let's try to create a new Python file and let's try to save this file as HTMLLoader demo. So let me close this. So to load the HTML file, we have a module called BSHTMLLoader, which is inside LangChain document loaders, right? So first thing is we are trying to import the modules that we need, right? And now by using this BSHTMLLoader, we can load any HTML file. So for example, this is my sample HTML file. So I have some text here. Now our goal is to load this data from this HTML file. So how can we read the data? By using this HTMLLoader, right? And then we have to pass the path where we saved this HTML file. And then again, the next step is, you already know, inside the loader we have the method called load. So call that and assign it to a variable called data. And then now let me try to print what we have inside data, right? So save it and click on run. So what it is saying, import error, beautiful soap 4 package not found, please install it with pip install. Whenever you get module not found, make sure you try to install the corresponding packages, right? So I'm just giving this and then hit enter, and that's it. You are able to install the package, right? So what I did here, I used pip install command and then try to install the missing package, which is beautiful soap 4, right? So that is required. So let me clear the terminal and rerun the code. We got one other error. Please either install it with pip install this one or to default beautiful soap kwargs. Okay, let's try to install this package. And then now let me try to rerun the code. So now you can see we are able to load the data. This is the content, right, from test1.html file. So I installed this package and I also installed another package. So what we did here, first we installed all the required packages and then we loaded this module, and inside this we are passing our path where we saved our HTML file, right? So this is our input document file. And once we got the loader, we have load function which is inside HTMLLoader, right? So we are calling that and we are trying to print the data and see if you are able to load the content from an HTML file, right? So by using HTMLLoader, we are able to load the content from an HTML file, right? So far we have seen how we can load a CSV file and then HTML file, right? Now let's see one other file, new file, and click on Python file. And now let me save this as PDFLoader demo, right? For example, let's say if your input document is saved inside a PDF file, right? So for this we have to use PDFLoader, which is inside LangChain document loaders, right? So save it. So this is pretty straightforward, right? So we are using PDFLoader and we are passing the file path, right? And we are storing inside a loader variable. And now inside loader we have load and split function. And now let's say if you want to know the data type of the pages variable. So let me save it and run the code. So import error, PyPDF package not found, please install PyPDF. So let's try to install this. And then if you try to rerun the code, so now you can see this pages is of type list, right? So what we did here, we try to install the missing package, pip install PyPDF, right? So let me show this sample PDF file, right? So this is the PDF file. I have 2 pages total, right? And now print just the first page, right? We know this is a list, so you can read a list by using the index, right? So the index starts from 0, and let's try to print it and rerun the code. So now you can see we are able to load the content here, right? So which is nothing but page underscore content, right? Let's say if you want to see a page content, right? So now you can give pages of 0 dot page content, right? So let me clear the terminal and rerun the code. So now you can see we are getting the page content, right? Or let's say if you want to read the second page, right? So now you can see it is printing the second page as well, this architecture page. This is what we have in the second page, right? Page number 2. So that's what it is trying to print, right? By using index 1, that means it is second page, right? So what we did here, we used PDFLoader, which is inside LangChain document loaders, and to this we passed our input document, which is a PDF file, and we saved inside a loader variable. And inside PDFLoader we have a function called load and split. So we called that and we got the pages, and this pages is of a type list, right? And then once we have the list, either you can loop in, or I'm just trying to show the demo just by giving index, right? 0th index means it is trying to print first page, and first index means it is trying to print second page, right? So that is how you can load a PDF document, right? So what we did here, we have seen how to load a CSV document, HTML or PDF document, right? So now you get the idea, right, on how to load different types of documents by using LangChain document loaders, right? And let's say if your input document is in a different format, you can try to explore more depending on your requirement, right? So you can go to LangChain documentation. So let me take you there. So this is LangChain documentation, right? So you can see document loaders. We have a ton of document loaders here, and we have covered few of them. So we have seen PDFLoader, CSV, HTML, right? So similarly, we have several other examples here. So this is the complete documentation, right? If your document is other than the CSV or HTML or PDF, then come here to the LangChain documentation, right? And then try to search here. Here you have the search option. So try to search here, and you should be able to load any kind of document by using the methods that are available inside LangChain, right? So that's about loading different kinds of files by using LangChain document loaders, right? Thank you.